Emotional thinking. Who is with the narcissist? When you have escaped the narcissist, and more usually when you have been disengaged from, you invariably wonder, is the narcissist with somebody else? Are they with somebody new? Have they got a new relationship? The logical answer to this is, who gives a rat's ass? You ought not to care. You shouldn't be interested. Because once you've established that you're with a narcissist, you apply total no contact, and that means not scurrying around trying to do detective work, ascertaining whether the narcissist is with someone. Not going around asking people, do you know if such and such is in a new relationship? Not spying from your car outside the narcissist's house to see who's coming and going. And not allowing this thought to run around inside your head. Who is he with? Who's she with now? Is that the new boyfriend or girlfriend? All of those are breaches of no contact. And by trying to find out if the narcissist is with somebody now, after your disengagement, all you're going to do is invite the devil's pitchfork to slam into you. All you're going to do is end up making yourself angry, irritated, pissed off, miserable, sad, and hurt. And you can avoid it. If you don't look, you won't know. But of course, you are empaths and you are truth seekers. And at the point of disengagement, your emotional thinking is extremely high. It has to be. You've repeatedly been involved with the narcissist at this point. Similarly, it remains very high when you have escaped. And thus, this extremely high emotional thinking says, we need to feed the addiction. Notwithstanding the fact this person has taken the ridiculous step of escaping from the narcissist, or that the narcissist has got rid of this individual, the addiction to the narcissist still needs to be fed, and therefore, what we need to do is ensure that it remains fed. One of the ways to do that is to corrupt that truth-seeking trait to cause you to wonder, is he or she alone now? Is this person with somebody new? You really don't need to know. Of course, you repeatedly give in, wanting to understand. You want to compare yourself to the new person. What has she got that you haven't? What's so good about him that she chose him over you? You don't need to know. Why? Well, first of all, it's a breach of no contact, and it could lead to you initiating contact with the narcissist and provide us with fuel. It might mean that you message us or come and see us, and thus you give us fuel, giving us what we want. Also, you'll invariably get yourself worked up about it. You'll be jealous, you'll be upset, you'll be angry, you'll be annoyed, and you don't need any of that. And finally, by continuing to engage in some form with the narcissist, you will increase your emotional thinking, making everything harder, making those emotions rawer, making it more difficult to move forward. But of course, when you are in the maelstrom, when you are in the grip of this emotional thinking at the outset, it becomes extremely difficult for you to see clearly. And therefore, although you ought not to know, and you certainly should not take any steps to try and ascertain, I'm going to explain to you who is with the narcissist, so that you are now fixed with this knowledge in the safety of listening to me, if you will, in a controlled environment, rather than running the risks associated with trying to find out yourself in the manner that I have already described. You've been disengaged from, or perhaps you have succeeded and escaped our grip. You, driven by your truth-seeker trait, cannot help still but wonder what we are doing, especially if we've disengaged from you. The thoughts run through your mind repeatedly. What is he doing? Is she thinking of me? Where has he been today? Why have I not heard from him or her? Why did he do that? What did I do wrong? Who is he with? 1,001 questions which whirl around in your mind. This is invariably the case when you've been disengaged from, and even when you make your escape, the questions still come thick and fast because so much hasn't been explained or answered. Furthermore, as an empathic individual, you can't help but wonder what we are up to, what we are thinking, how we are feeling, and, of course, who we might be with. It's an automatic response for somebody like you, driven by your emotional thinking, and is one of the reasons why you remain so susceptible to us hoovering. Sometimes you might be wondering how we are or how we're managing. You may hope that we're miserable and dejected by losing you, and you want to find out whether that's the case. You engage in stalking our social media, breach of no contact, driving by where we work or live, breach of no contact. Have friends ask what we are up to, breach of no contact, and you will try and contact us directly to try and establish what has happened, where there's been disengagement. Again, a breach of no contact. Whether you escaped or whether you were disengaged from, there are several burning questions on your mind, and one of those is he with someone else now? You do some snooping and detecting, and the answer appears to be yes, he's alone. There's no sign of a new significant other. There's no mention of a new girlfriend or partner, and the narcissist has not been spotted with anybody else when they have been sighted around town. It looks like the narcissist is on their own. So what does that mean? I will explain for you, so you gain clarity through logic. If you're involved with a lesser narcissist, one has to consider the position where there has been an escape and one where there has been disengagement. Those factors apply to two scenarios being in play. The first is the lesser will be engaged in what is known as bouncing, addressing bouncing following your escape first of all. The lesser narcissist will have a new primary source, but he won't actually regard her as the girlfriend. She'll in all likelihood have been a promoted inner or outer circle friend of the lesser. This is especially likely where you've escaped. With no time available to put in place a replacement who has been cultivated from meeting in a bar or through work, the lesser will have erupted and then sought the nearest fuel appliance, seeking solace from them. The easiest way for a lesser, who is intrinsically lazy, to do this is rather than expend energy seducing somebody from a standing start and is comparatively unknown, or even completely unknown, it would be for him to promote an existing secondary source into a primary. Therefore, a non-intimate secondary source may be targeted, they're already in the fuel matrix, and they become promoted. This person will be comforting the lesser narcissist at his awful and terrible treatment at your hands. The lesser, however, will not make it known that he has a new intimate partner primary source because he will want to milk sympathy from onlookers, especially middle lesser, and also use this sympathy to enable him to move to another friend who will offer him comfort. Very quickly, he will move between these two, maybe more appliances, involved with them in an intimate nature, bouncing between them. One weekend, the first person will be his intimate partner primary source, but not actually referred to as a girlfriend or such like. A few days later, he will move to a different one. He hasn't any issue with this. He's accountable to nobody. He's no need to announce the relationship, since his narcissism instinctively operates to keep it quiet, as it affords him more opportunities for fuel. What about the instance of bouncing where there has been disengagement? This happens where the lesser narcissist is not completely satisfied that the individual that he was cultivating as an intimate partner secondary source can be embedded as he would like. Again, this is instinctive. You might well have been disengaged from because you've failed to provide fuel, and this failure is dramatic. And this took place, therefore, before your replacement has properly been embedded, or for one of the other disengagement triggers, aside from the fact that you have a replacement who is now ready to be embedded. Accordingly, the lesser narcissist will be, in effect, instinctively hedging his bets by moving between these two intimate partner primary sources, alternating between them until, ultimately, his narcissism decides which is best and they become embedded. Ordinarily, these individuals would be treated as intimate partner secondary sources, but given the needs of the lesser and his inability to quickly get somebody into position from a standing start, he will latch onto existing appliances, promote them, and then press the pause button, effectively disengaging and moving across to another. In a way, it's almost like an infant suckling at one breast and then moving to the other, and then going back again. Neither of the intimate partner primary sources at this juncture will be devalued. Rather, there is this rather unusual arrangement of bouncing where he moves between the two. Neither are announced as a primary source, i.e. doesn't say that they are a girlfriend, and he gives the appearance of effectively being alone, but he's not. He's using one, then the other, and then back to the other, and then back to the other, bouncing or ping-ponging between the two. It's somewhat different from the ping-ponging that I've described in a different video, because this bouncing is over a much shorter period of time. It can literally be a few days with one and then with the other. They are, however, the intimate partner primary source because of the amount of demands that the individual is placing upon the particular appliance, the utilization of character traits and residual benefits. In the second scenario, this concerns keeping it in the family. This is often applicable to the victim narcissist. If you've escaped the lesser, he may actually then promote a family member to be the primary source, so there is a non-intimate partner primary source, rather than promoting in a circle intimately to become an intimate partner. The narcissist turns to his mother or sister, complaining of his misfortune, how terribly he's been treated. He may move back to the childhood home, and this is where he gains all of his fuel, character traits, and residual benefits, all of the sympathetic mothering fuel. Hence, he appears to have no intimate partner primary source because there isn't one, but there is a non-intimate partner primary source. Even where there's been disengagement, for instance, you have broken down, and that has caused disengagement, the lesser narcissist may instinctively decide to keep it in the family by playing on his woes as he continues to cultivate quietly an intimate partner secondary source in the background. With the mid-range narcissist, where he appears to have no intimate partner primary source and appears to be on his own, it isn't the case. He'll have a new intimate partner as a primary source, but he doesn't want you to know about her, not yet. This is applicable where there is both disengagement and escape. The mid-range narcissist, being the most passive-aggressive of the schools of narcissist, may not have embedded his prospective primary source with the instinctive confidence he would prefer, especially if it's a situation where you've escaped, and therefore lacking the raw aggression of the lesser narcissist and the swaggering confidence of the greater or the ultra, he keeps a low profile until he's confident that there is a successful attachment. Again, this occurs instinctively. He doesn't want you, as the former IPPS, knowing about the new intimate partner primary source, because the inherent paranoia which drives the potential threat to his control in terms of you interfering and messing up this much-needed source of fuel, etc. It's only when he's instinctively confident that the attachment has been secured that he will then engage in relationship bulletins about it, and up until that point, he will give the appearance of being on his own. The fact is that you don't need to go around looking to see whether the narcissist is with somebody new. Where you've been disengaged from, usually it's because the narcissist has put somebody in place, and you'll probably know about it. If you don't, there's still likely to be one, although they may be obscured for the reasons that I have explained. But it is highly unusual for lesser and mid-range narcissists not to have an intimate partner primary source. They're usually there somewhere, whether they are an intimate partner primary source or sometimes with a keeping it in the family scenario by way of being non-intimate. What then about the greater and the ultra? Well, of all the schools of narcissism, the greaters and the ultra are able to function for longer without an intimate partner primary source than the lesser or mid-range. This is because we have extensive secondary sources to whom we can turn. Our extensive social circles, loyal lieutenants, devoted family members, admirers are all jostling for permission to be chosen. And all of this and our ability to engage with these individuals provides us with plentiful fuel so that we can manage without an intimate partner primary source, or even but much rarer, a non-intimate partner primary source. Of course, the greater and the ultra always prefers to have a primary source in place, but if you escaped and you've pushed the narcissist into chaos mode, then the narcissist will be working to secure that primary source behind the scenes, but is content to show that he doesn't need anybody in the meanwhile. The reality is, of course, that the narcissist that has lost the primary source because of the escape of the primary source is clamouring to find a new one. However, he will want you to think that he remains aloof, self-sufficient, and not making beeline for anybody who will have him. He's choosier than that. He's standards. This is the appearance that he wishes to project, and, to a degree, it's accurate, because the narcissist cannot remain choosy for too long. The demands of fuel are ever present, and those secondary sources will only sustain the greater and the ultra for so long. The greater or the ultra will create this appearance of not needing a primary source, and to begin with, that is accurate. But after a number of months, one will be sought out. The secondary sources cannot be relied on indefinitely. The bottom line is that a primary source is always needed by the lesser and mid-range narcissists, more or less immediately following escape or disengagement, because of the demands of fuel, character traits, and residual benefits. It's only an appearance as why the lesser or mid-range narcissist appears to be single, save where he keeps it in the family. The greater or the ultra, it needs a primary source soon enough, but they can last for longer without one, and will revel in not having one by demonstrating, I don't need you or anybody at all. In fact, I am my own person. It is, of course, an artifice. The greater or the ultra will need a primary source at some point. We are, however, in the fortunate position, because of our grandiosity, magnetism and charm, have far more many secondary sources to rely upon in the interim. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.